Hello friends, welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by The Guild. I am Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage. We'll start things off with our first Cowboy rumor of the day is Dez Bryant not having issues finding a team. I'm going to give this one just the 2 stars. I don't know if I fully believe Dez Bryant. He recently chimed in on Instagram saying the last problem he has is finding a team, which I kind of get what he's saying, that I think he believes that there's interest. He just hasn't picked his right team. He wants to take his time. But if this was the case, wouldn't he already be signed? Just throwing that out there as a potential option. Now, Bryant says he's taken his time to find the right fit, and there's been limited public interest, at least the shown interest, from NFL teams so far. I think he finds a team. I just don't know when it's going to happen. Might not be until closer or even after training camp starts for the rest of the NFL. Number 2, could Jason Garrett be the first NFL head coach fired? Well, I'm only going to give it the 1 star. I know some of you guys want Jason Garrett gone, and I get it, but it's just the 1 star here. We'll break down all those odds here in just a second, but Garrett was 9th best, or I guess 9th worst in this case, among odds to be the first NFL head coach fired. And Garrett does enter the year on the hot seat for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he could be fired at the end of the year, but I find a midseason dump to be rather unlikely. I don't really foresee Garrett getting canned early. Here were those odds, by the way. Tied for 10th, you had guys like Pete Carroll. John Gruden, for some stupid reason, was on the list. John Harbaugh. Then it was Jason Garrett. And then you got into the more likely options. Bill O'Brien, Todd Bowles. You had Jay Gruden, Dirk Cutter up there. I love those odds, 12-1. Vance Joseph, Marvin Lewis, Adam Gase, Hugh Jackson. All coaches on worse NFL teams that if they start the year really badly will likely get canned. But folks, I want to know from you guys, will Jason Garrett be the Cowboys head coach after this season? Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I do believe that if Garrett fails to make the playoffs, the Cowboys will fire him, barring a whole bunch of injuries, and they'll go in a new direction at the head coaching search. All right, next up. Could the Cowboys trade for Deshaun Jackson? I'm going to nip this one in the bud right now. It's fake news. Comes to us from Fansided, who said, ooh, the Cowboys should trade for Deshaun Jackson, which doesn't make sense for a lot of different reasons. The biggest one for me, and Fansided didn't even mention this, Deshaun Jackson has an $11 million salary this year. Why would you bring that in? You can barely afford that for the Cowboys. Save your money for Deshaun Jackson, who I know. He's fun, he's sexy, he makes some big plays. That's too much money for a player of Deshaun Jackson's caliber. And oh, by the way, Fansided also said maybe you could trade Terrence Williams for him. Can we stop with the terrible T-Will trade offers? Why on earth would the Bucs do that trade? Why would they trade a better receiver in Deshaun Jackson for Terrence Williams, who has a whole bunch of off-field issues right now? Oh, and is hurt right now. Doesn't make any sense. That's why I gave it the fake news. Next up, Jaylon Smith. Could he play multiple spots at linebacker? I'll tell you what. I almost gave this one 4 stars. I'll go with 3 just in case someone like Leighton Vander Esch gets hurt. But I think you're going to see Jaylon Smith play some Mike linebacker, some strong side linebacker. He'll be an edge rusher at times. You might even see some weak side if Sean Lee needs a breather. In particular this year for Jaylon Smith, I think you'll see him rush the passer more. He was pretty good at that role last season. Now, Smith was actually the number 2 pass rusher among non-edge rushing linebackers per Pro Football Focus. Only blitzed 17 times, had 4 hurries and a sack. That's pretty good efficiency there. So I think Smith, as we saw later in the year, was much better as things went along. I have bigger expectations this year in what we'll call year 2, even though it's only year 3, for Jaylon Smith. All right, next up, could Tyrone Crawford go back to DT? I know you guys have this one quite a bit. I see some of you guys out there saying Crawford should go back to defensive tackle, but I'm only going to give it just the 1 star. I don't find it very likely, and that was confirmed by a couple of different Cowboys.com writers over the weekend. The Cowboys have kept Crawford at defensive end this year and have asked him to cut a significant amount of weight. He's pretty unlikely to make a move back to defensive tackle. Now, it could happen if there are a whole bunch of injuries at DT, but I simply don't find it all that likely. Now, I get it. I agree that I think Crawford's ideal fit is as a 3 technique, but this year, folks, the Cowboys are going to keep him at defensive end. David Irving, Malik Collins, We'll see how they fare early in the year, come back from injury and suspension, respectively. We'll talk more about Jihad Ward here in just a second. And then Brian Price and Dayton Jones as well, plus some guys that I doubt make the roster, and Richard Ash, Antoine Woods, and so on. And then at DE, look, it's a really good group there. DeMarcus Lawrence, Tyrone Crawford, Taco, Dorrance Armstrong, Coney Ely. Ely probably likely battling for a roster spot alongside guys like Charles Tapper. Ooh, and then maybe Randy Gregory comes back for suspension. So I get it. I get why some of you want Crawford to go back to DT because you have the bodies at defensive end you don't have on the interior, but the Cowboys don't seem to feel that way. But folks, let me know, where should the Cowboys play Tyrone Crawford? Give me a heart for DT and a like for defensive end. And don't forget to subscribe to our brand new Cowboys Report YouTube channel at chatsports.com/CowboysTV. It'll take you right into the subscribe page. All of our great Cowboys content all in one spot. Next up, did the Cowboys get steals in Tavon Austin and Jihad Ward? I will give it 2 stars, and I think it's just a little bit early to actually call them steals because we haven't even got to training camp yet. Now, I get why people are excited. There were a lot of good things we saw from Austin at Ward and at OTAs and at minicamp. Austin should play a big role in the offense and on special teams. Jihad Ward is now in line for major key snaps with David Irving hurt, and Ward looked pretty good under Rod Marinelli early this offseason. But it's still just a little bit early to call them steals. The potential is definitely there. But let's revisit this in the preseason, not before we even really put the pads on. So let me know who will have the bigger impact. Give me a like for Jihad Ward and a heart for Tavon Austin. I will lean toward Tavon Austin because he should impact in 2 different areas, both in the return game and on offense. All right, next up, number 7. Is Dak going to take a discount? Well, we'll break that one down after a word from our sponsor, The Guild. Well, Dak recently chimed in on his new contract. Essentially, it's the one that's coming up, but we're only going to give this one 2 stars for now. There's a possibility, but Dak Prescott didn't exactly say he was going to sign super cheap. So what Dak had said in an interview with USA Today was that it's all about winning and that he wants to do what's best to get good players and keep good players. But at the same time, I want to do what's best for me, and I got to take care of myself and my family. So in reality, I don't think you're going to see Dak Prescott demand an outrageous sum of money. And I also think that getting a deal done earlier than you absolutely have to, getting this deal done in advance of his contract actually ending, will help drive down the price. But here's the deal with Dak Prescott. This is kind of the bare minimum you're going to have to pay him. $30 million for Matt Ryan, $28 million for Kirk Cousins, $27 million for Stafford and Jimmy G, $25 million plus for Carr and Drew Brees. And that number is probably only going to go up. So although you would love to be able to pay Dak the similar contract he's got right now and save some money there, quarterbacks, even just above average ones like, say, Kirk Cousins, for example, demand an incredible amount of money. You're going to have to pay him quite a bit of money if he is indeed your franchise guy. I know not all of you guys feel this way, so let me know in the comment section. But I do think Dak is the franchise quarterback. There were some doubts that have come out because of the way he played down the stretch last year amid offensive line injuries. But I do believe that Dak is the franchise guy. And if he plays like we think he will this season, the Cowboys will pay him like one after the year ends. Speaking of Dak, is he going to disappoint this year? We've kind of changed adjustments here rather dramatically. Just the 1 star. I don't really believe this from Bleacher Report. They picked out their player most likely to disappoint this year, and they said it was Dak. And it didn't really make a strong argument. It was that, Dez Bryant, Jason Witten are gone. And then mentioned that, you get Zeke and Tyron back, but if they get hurt again, the player could regress. And I'm kind of like, well, yeah, but why would you assume players will get hurt? Like, that's not the right way to go about doing things. If that's the case, it's not really on the quarterback. It's going to be on the rest of the offense for having issues, be it on or off-field injury-wise. So I didn't really buy that one. And then, by the way, they pretty much picked the quarterback for almost every single team. So just the 1 star. It could happen, but I don't think that's going to be the case this year for Dak Prescott. Maybe early in the year as the offense adjusts, but I don't see it. Speaking of the offense, will Zeke reach 2,000 all-purpose yards? I'm going to go maybe a little bit rogue here and give it 3 stars. I do think this is going to happen. I have very, very high expectations in year 3 for Ezekiel Elliott. Now, the Dallas Morning News says, 1,600 yards on the ground for 500 receiving yards. I think that's about right. It's actually fewer yards on the ground than Zeke had in his rookie year. Although he's never hit 2,000 yards, he was very close in his first year. and probably would have done it had he not been suspended for 6 games last season. Just for a little reference point here. Here were last year's all-purpose yards there. Of course, you had Gurley and Bell and Kamara, and then Lockett thanks to special teams, Kareem Hunt, Deion Lewis. You put him at 2,000 yards total. Zeke Elliott, I believe, will have MVP consideration this year, and I think if the Cowboys play well, you're going to see that this year for Ezekiel Elliott. So, folks, let me know in the comments section, how many yards on the ground will Zeke have this year? I like around 1,600. That's about 100 per game. Let me know what you think in the comments section, if it's higher or if you're going crazy, even lower than that. Hello, friends. I'm Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for some more Cowboys coverage. We'll take it now to some positional battles on offense for the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll start at quarterback. No, not the starting job, but the backup job. Dak Prescott will be your starter, but Cooper Rush and Mike White are going to compete for the number 2 role. Now, Mike White is the newcomer. He is the challenger to Cooper Rush. And Dallas spent a 5th-round pick on Mike White, a clear sign to me that they are relatively high on him, maybe even more so than they were on Cooper Rush coming out. I think the Cowboys will keep 3 quarterbacks, but I think that Rush is the guy that's going to win the backup job. He has the most experience. He fared very well last year in the preseason. Unless White really shines, I think that Cooper Rush will be the backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. White makes the roster, and then Dalton Stern, well, he is just a classic camp arm. I will be absolutely stunned if he makes the roster this year. On to receiver now, and Allen Hurns, Cole Beasley, Michael Gallup, those guys are all locks. Terrence Williams should also be safe for the Cowboys. So we'll start with Allen Hurns. We look at the top receivers overall, the top guys who could be that number 1, quote-unquote, wide receiver. Hurns has very high expectations for the Cowboys this year, or at least from the Cowboys this season, because the Cowboys need him to help take over for the loss of Dez Bryant, and I guess Jason Witten as well. Hurns can play outside and inside. If I'm guessing, he'll play more outside than inside this season. Not great production last year statistically, but he was banged up, and he did have Blake Bortles as a quarterback as well. Hurns, I think, might start the year as the number 1 guy, but he'll be challenged by players like a Cole Beasley, who will play both outside and inside this year, a little bit more outside than he has in years past. And unlike several others, Cole Beasley already has the trust of Dak Prescott. The chemistry and familiarity are already there. That should help Beasley early in the year, and he has to be better than he was in 2017. Michael Gallup, the rookie, is up next year, and he might not start the year as a starting receiver, but the expectation is that he becomes one by the end of it. And Gallup has high expectations among the Cowboys because he can be a reliable, at least number 2 receiver throughout his NFL career. He might, especially early on, and as we go along, I should say, he could be the 3rd receiver the Cowboys use in other packages, with Hurns and Beasley and Gallup there as your top options. Maybe not the instant impact you want, but I think by the end of the year, Michael Gallup could emerge as one of the Cowboys' top options at wide receiver. And then there's the big question mark around 1, Terrence Williams. Now, his future remains in question after his arrest, but it does seem more likely, at least as of now, that the Cowboys will elect to keep Terrence Williams, and he might not be suspended. If it does, it might not come for quite a while because, well, we know how the NFL tends to work there. And T-Will, yes, I know you guys don't like him at times because of the drops, because of the body catches and all that, and I get it. But T-Will is remaining one of the most productive receivers on the Cowboys from last year. So you don't just want to get rid of all of your production sans Cole Beasley. I think T-Will makes the roster, but he might be demoted into more of a number 4 wide receiver type role, along behind Gallup, Hurns, and Beasley by the end of the year. So, folks, let me know who you think will be the Cowboys' number 1 wideout. Is it Allen Hurns? Is it Cole? Is it Michael Gallup? Or is it T-Will? If you think it's somebody else, let me know in the comments section. Speaking of receivers here, how about the backup wide receiver role? Now, those are the top 4 guys that I think will make the roster. That leaves 1, maybe 2 or 3 at absolute most, probably more like 2 at most, other receivers that can make the roster. And there are 4, maybe 4.5 guys battling for that role. I don't think KD Cannon makes the roster. I know he's got some fans out there, but he's fast and needs a lot of work overall. I just don't think he's there yet as a wide receiver. First up is Deontay Thompson, the guy I feel most confident about making the roster. He is not guaranteed a roster spot. thanks in part to having a contract that is at least cuttable, even though it would be kind of a bad decision on the Cowboys' part based on when they signed him. But he offers the deep threat the Cowboys have lacked. He and Tavon both have some good speed there. And if the Cowboys want to stretch the field more this year, Deontay Thompson could be the vertical threat the team has lacked in recent years, at least consistently lacked in terms of production. Thompson, though, is battling guys like Noah Brown, who has put the time in this offseason, but does face a tough path to actually make the roster. And those last few spots at receiver are going to be hotly contested. I like Noah Brown. I know that the Cowboys do, but he has to wow in the preseason, as does one Cedric Wilson. Now, he is a Bryce Butler type. He's got a little bit bigger size, not the same burner speed as a Deontay Thompson, but does have the good hands and the good contested catch ability to be a true deep threat. But as a fifth-round pick, he might have to beat out Thompson to make the roster. If not, maybe the Cowboys try and stash him on the practice squad. And then one more guy I want to make note of here. That is Lance Lenoir. And Lenoir has upside here. He's got ability, special teams value as well. The Cowboys can be high on him. He's done actually pretty well during OTAs and minicamp. He is a dark horse to make the roster, but I don't think he's actually going to make it. Here are my projections with plenty of time to change those last 4 spots there. I'll give Thompson the number 5 spot, Noah Brown number 6. Maybe Dallas tries to sneak on Cedric Wilson on the practice squad alongside Lance Lenoir. And then Katie Cannon, I just don't think he's going to make it, but maybe he'll prove me wrong. So which receiver, folks, do you think is most likely to make the roster? Is it Thompson? Is it Brown? Is it Cedric Wilson? Or is it Lance Lenoir? Use those reaction buttons and let me know in the comments section. All right, folks, today's show is brought to you by The Guild. Visit stayguild.com. Use promo code SHATSPORTS for 15% off your next stay, kind of like a luxury Airbnb. That's stayguild.com, promo code SHATSPORTS for 15% off your next stay. Getting out to the tight ends, and this is a wide open race here. We'll take you through a bunch of different options here at tight end. Blake Jarwin, he leads the way here. Again, these are my projections, so we'll spend a little bit less time on this. Blake Jarwin is at number 1. Jeff Swaim's at number 2. Dalton Schultz at number 3. And then Rico Gathers, I think he might be cut. So we'll break it down why I feel this way. We'll start with Jeff Swaim, who as of right now is the leader at tight end, but I think Blake Jarwin is going to catch him. Now, Swaim is the only Cowboys tight end with a regular season catch, but he is a block-first guy. Blake Jarwin, I kind of think, is also the same. The Cowboys seem to like him a lot. They've hyped him up throughout the offseason. And Jarwin, with the hype there, at least from the Cowboys' own staff and front office members, I think that makes him the most likely guy to be the number 1 tight end, even though the tight end will not play as big a role this year as it has in years past. The Cowboys are high on Jarwin. We'll see how he fares in the preseason, and it is worth mentioning the Eagles tried to take him last year off the Cowboys practice squad. Don't be surprised if Jarwin wins a tight end job early in the preseason or in the regular season. As for Dalton Schultz, roster spot is safe, role is unclear. I think he'll be a backup in year 1. Maybe he emerges after that, but Schultz needs some more time. I don't think he'll be your starter early on, but I think he's got some upside in that classic Cowboys tight end fashion as a blocker and a pass catcher. And then there's Rico Gathers. Now, if the Cowboys keep 4 tight ends, he's going to make the roster over David Wells. If they only keep 3, I have a tough time seeing Rico make the roster unless he really wows in the preseason. And as of right now, Rico's working with the 4s at tight end. He is behind Schultz and Jarwin and Swaim. That's going to make it tough for him to actually wow in the preseason. So it's a make-or-break year for Rico Gathers. Has to do better at blocking, has to be more focused. The upside is there. Hopefully he makes the roster because of his pass catching ability, but as of right now, I don't think Rico's going to make the roster, but I hope I am proven wrong because I love the upside he brings in the passing game. So down to the offensive line here. Focus on the interior battle going on. Zach Martin, Frederick Connor Williams, those guys are locked in. They're not going anywhere. They're going to make the Cowboys roster for sure this season. But beyond that, the backup spots are unclear. Now, I think Joe Looney makes it, but that leaves 1, maybe 2 spots for other interior linemen. Marcus Martin, Chaz Green, Kadeem Edwards, and Damian Mama. Let's start with Joe Looney. Now, his roster, or his contract, does not guarantee him a roster spot. $250K guaranteed. He can get cut, and it's not that big of a deal. But I think he'll be the top interior guy like he was last year because he can play both guard and center. As to can Marcus Martin. Now, he did not play last year for the Browns, But it was a classic Cowboys signing, a former relatively high draft pick who flamed out, gets another chance with Dallas. He, I think, is the front right now to make the Cowboys roster ahead of guys like Chaz Green. Now, I know some of you guys want Chaz Green gone, and I get it. The Cowboys are giving him another chance at both guard and tackle. Maybe that positional flex makes him more valuable, but as of right now, Chaz Green actually got surpassed during minicamp by Kadeem Edwards, a 5th-round pick by the Bucs in 2014, was on the practice squad for much of last year, actually got some starting reps at right guard during minicamp. Keep an eye on Edwards to make the roster. But as for my projections, look, Martin, Frederick, Williams, that's not going to change. Those are your starters locked in. So I think Joe Looney and Marcus Martin, I'll list one as backup center, one as backup guard. You can flip it around. It doesn't really matter too much. And if the Cowboys go light at guard, let's say, or at O-line, let's say they take 8 guys, that means Chaz Green and Kadeem Edwards both get cut. I know some of you guys who want Chaz Green gone are feeling pretty good right about now. All right, folks, if you missed anything, don't worry, we'll put it in here in just a second. But we'll have another mailbag coming up, so get your comments in the comments section or tweet them to me at WhatGoingDowney. And until then, we'll see you next time.